What is up, guys? Welcome to the debut video of Tables, Ladders, and Sean. You probably are familiar with me from RGT85, but this is my new pro wrestling channel, and I didn't anticipate making a video already. I don't even have graphics up on the channel or anything like that, but a lot of people have been hitting me up to talk about this situation, so I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it. This is pretty much how this channel is going to work out. It's going to be more of a podcast style channel. There will be some more in-depth content coming up as well, some stuff for the future that I want to work on, but a lot of it is going to be sort of reactionary stuff, podcast style stuff to what I've seen in the latest going on in the world of wrestling. And obviously last night AEW had their All Out pay-per-view. It was a solid show overall. There were some high points, there were some low points, but the thing that everyone is talking about from this show was the Matt Hardy situation. And we have some new information about the Matt Hardy situation going on right now. So I basically just want to talk about this situation, what I think about it, and of course the latest ongoings with Matt Hardy and his current state. Because if you watch the pay-per-view, you got a very scary sight last night. So of course the match was between Sammy Guevara and Matt Hardy, and it seems like this sort of feud has been cursed, since they have been working with each other. There's been a lot of things that have happened within this feud that just don't really bode well. It seems like there's some negative energy or some sort of thing that's going on right now between these two, and it's not even necessarily like real world things. It's almost like outer worldly things are impacting this feud, because basically they were setting up a spot last night that was taking place on a scaffolding, and there were some tables below it, and the spot was supposed to go that Matt was teasing a side effect. Sammy reverses it, and Sammy spears Matt off of the scaffolding and through the tables, and the spot went well except for the whole tables part, because they ended up overshooting it a little bit. The thing about pro wrestling is, if you've been watching pro wrestling for as long as I have, and you know people that are pro wrestlers as well, it just takes an inch of something to go wrong for there to be something very serious that ends up happening. And that's what we saw with this situation, because just by overshooting it a little bit, too much momentum, the tables maybe not being in the proper position, Matt ended up sort of hitting the tables with his body, but his head hit the concrete, and there was a loud audible thunk noise. It sounded absolutely disgusting. And it looks like, from what we know, basically there's different on-hand reports from the situation. You have Matt's wife taking to Twitter, saying a bunch of things about it. She actually locked her Twitter account because a lot of people were sort of questioning what she was saying. She says that Matt was immediately concussed during this. During this event, you have, of course, referee Aubrey Edwards, who's at the scene, who's a fantastic referee, by the way. You could tell she wanted to stop the match because she thought that something was seriously wrong. Doc Sampson, who is the doctor for AEW, was on hand and basically did a checkup of Matt. And a lot of people on Twitter and social media in general wanted the match to stop right then and there because of the injury. Because when you're talking about head injuries, we have so much more information about things like concussions and post-traumatic concussion syndrome and what it could do to the body nowadays, that you need to protect your head, basically. But the problem lies within the fact that Matt Hardy is a seasoned wrestler, and Matt Hardy, looking throughout his career, his whole moniker that he cannot die, I firmly believe that he honestly feels that, because he told Doc Sampson, from what we've been told online, that he was fine. He was obviously very groggy when he got up. And as someone who has skateboarded for many years, I have had head injuries. Now, it's never been really the drop size of that, like the fall size, but the speed size of things. Like, there have been times where I have, hit a pebble or something, gone flying and smacked my head against the ground and, been out of it for a few minutes and ended up having head pains for like a week afterwards. So I could sort of sympathize with people who wanted this event to stop, because it was a very, dangerous looking spot. It was a very dangerous situation, but Matt Hardy told the doctor, he felt fine. They did a little concussion sort of protocol thing, obviously not as in depth as they do in the NFL, but Doc Sampson said, it seems like it's okay. And of course the match ended up going on. The match was obviously very stunted from this situation. They pretty much just went to the finish right after that, which was another pretty dangerous spot, but it was also well protected as far as having things underneath the tables. There was another climb involved, so if Matt did have a head injury, it would have been a very disastrous situation because of the fact that he probably would have gotten very woozy being up in that sort of height, you know, because of the fact that Matt could have easily slipped and fallen from that height, and then you would have had a whole nother situation on hand. But Tony Khan actually took to Twitter today because obviously a lot of people are talking about this, and about an hour ago he put out the following tweet saying, "An update on Matt Hardy. It's great news. Matt's okay. We sent him to the hospital as precaution, and he's passed the MRI and CT scans. He doesn't have a concussion, and he's being driven home now. Matt will be at Dynamite on Wednesday night to thank you, amazing fans, for your support." So to me, it sounds like that this situation could have been a lot worse than it actually was. It does seem like Matt is okay. He got his bell clocked, you know, he got his bell rung with this situation. And the thing to me that I don't quite understand about a lot of social media's reaction to the situation was this was a very visible instance where a wrestler could have potentially gotten very, very hurt. But according to him, according to the wrestler himself, he was okay. According to Doc Sampson and his initial look at the situation, he was okay. Could they have stopped the match? Of course they could have, and it probably wouldn't have been an unfavorable reaction or anything like that. But you also have to sort of factor in how many times a wrestler can take a simple bump or something like that and get their clock, you know, cleaned out and, you know, get woozy from the situation. It's not something that's very cut and dry, especially for the fan sitting at home watching this, because this could happen at any instance in the ring. If a kick, you know, is a slightly an inch off or something, or comes too close, you know, some of these kicks that you see, especially on the indie scene, they'll take your freaking head off. So it's really a situation to me that it's got to be a learning experience for AEW. Obviously, Matt Hardy is that grizzled veteran, but you also want to protect him. You also don't want him to sort of be put into situations where, you know, he could potentially get very hurt. And this spot, it really didn't need to be done. It could have been done better. They could have put some extra tables out there. They could have put some padding underneath it. But who really knows who called that spot? You know, maybe Matt wanted it to look as authentic as possible. It does sound like to me, based on Tony Khan's tweet, that Matt is going to take a little bit of time off. Like I said at the end of the tweet, he says Matt will be on Dynamite Wednesday night to thank you, amazing fans, for your support. And really, I feel like it's time to move on from the Sammy Guevara feud anyways. It just seems like this feud has been cursed since the day it was pretty much a feud. Obviously, it started with Sammy getting suspended. He comes back. There's that chair incident where Matt gets his head split open. Sammy gets thrown through a table. Sammy gets his head split open. It's just been a very sort of strange situation between these two individuals, and I feel like their story has been told. I feel like you really can't tell anything more with this story, and I do hope Matt takes a little bit of time off because, you know, it's a dangerous situation. It was a very dangerous moment. It was a dangerous fall, but I'm just personally glad that all's well that ends well, that there's no major, at least for what we know so far, there's no major injury going on. He probably just got his head cleaned out with that. And, you know, hopefully there's no sort of long-term or lingering effects from this situation. Definitely a crazy spot, though, and something that, you know, like I said, AEW is a very new company. They're going to have bumps in the road. There's going to be PR incidences where people are not happy with it. It's something that they need to look at the situation and then learn from the situation. Realize that this could have been a lot worse than it initially looked. It could have ended up a lot worse for Matt Hardy and for the company. So since you sort of dodged this bullet of, you know, a serious injury, just learn from it. You know, make better judgments with these situations. Make sure everyone's on the same page. So those are my thoughts on the Matt Hardy situation. Like I said, this is the first video on this channel, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to let me know what you think of this situation in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, make sure you share this video around if you enjoyed my thoughts on this situation. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. There's going to be a whole bunch of new content coming up, including some pictures and banners and logos and shit. I promise it's coming, it's coming. But thank you guys for tuning in. I'm really looking forward to having some fun on this channel, talking about one of the things from my childhood that I just won't get rid of, which is pro wrestling. The other one is, of course, video games, and that's why we have RGT85. All right, I will catch you guys on the next video.